Okay. Okay, thank you, Summer, for that wonderful introduction. Good afternoon, everyone. I know everyone had a great lunch, so this is a good way to kickstart the afternoon on a topic that obviously, it impacts all our lives, very dramatically. So Summer has done an amazing job of giving some introduction of each of us. So I won't get the panelists to spend too much time, but maybe instead I will throw a curveball to everyone here, including the thorn among the roses, to say, why did you start your business that you started, right? And is it with some lofty digital vision that you might have, right? Since this is topics about that. So not so much to repeat what Summer has already introduced, but give us a little bit of your insight and your motivation why you do what you do today. So why don't we just go around and there are two mics here, so we can just share between two panelists. And Samira, I'll let you start.
Okay. Hello everybody. I'm Samira. I'm coming from Jakarta. Just got here like couple hours ago. So why did I start my business? So Tinkerlust.com, I don't know if you guys have heard of it. We are a pre-loved luxury marketplace, and we started around 3 years ago. We are one of the leading consignment businesses there in Indonesia. Why I started my business, basically it started from my own problem of having too many items in my closet. And I think that a lot of ladies, you guys can understand, because you guys probably only use 30% of your items, your basics like black pants, your white tops, and that's basically why I started it. And I think that every entrepreneur, to be a passionate business maker, they really need to understand the problem. And I had that problem. I moved back to Indonesia from the States, and I wanted to get rid of a lot of the stuff, but I wanted to replenish my closet as well on a budget, and that's basically how I started. And that is why I keep coming to the office every day, because I know that this is a problem that can be easily fixed, and that's what makes me passionate every day.
Hi, hello everyone. This is Wendy from EasyBuy. We started this company since 2010. That is more than 8 years ago. And the reason why we started this business was because if you can recall back to 8 years ago, in Singapore there was no online shopping in 2010. And what we feel was like there are so many shopping centers near MRT station on the Orchard Road. However, whichever shopping center you went to, you see the similar brands. It's almost the same brands. If I want to buy a piece of clothes, it's all the few brands that I want to go. So we were sort of like very limited by the varieties, by the choices. And yet again, in terms of price in Singapore, maybe for certain brands we pay so much higher than the brand itself in other countries. Like a lot of small stuff, home and living stuffs, when you buy from Singapore, it costs you simply maybe 10 plus, 20 plus. However, the same thing you can see from Taobao, maybe it's like 10 renminbi. It's 4 or 5 times cheaper than local retail. So we have this pinpoint. We are buying things all the time. We need clothes, we need home and living stuffs. However, when look at Singapore in this context, we are so limited by the varieties, and we pay so much higher. So that is when me and my friends, we were talking about this situation. Okay, is that possible that we could possibly bring the variety of products at cheaper price from overseas to local consumer? That is why we started this business. And until now, we are in 6 countries, namely Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand, Indonesia, Taiwan, and Pakistan. We are bringing all the products at cheaper cost with bigger variety to the consumers in these countries. Yeah, I think that's what makes us passionate about what we are doing. Yeah.
Wow, okay. Shafiq, the logistics make a lot of what she does happen, so you're critical as well?
Good afternoon, everyone. We are in the business of serving, of course, clients or customers like Tinkerlust or EasyBuy. How we started was in about 2010 as well, but officially I got into full swing was in 2012. I was a personal trainer before this business, before Riverwood. And I've been in the service line for 6 years as a personal trainer. And I think for me, it was more of almost like an epiphany, really. I mean, doing that for 6 years, I was one of the top sales in Asia, hitting my target very early in my career. And it was a situation where it was both ways, internal and external. So internally, I was looking out for something else. Externally, I saw what was happening around. I mean, as what Wendy mentioned earlier regarding the situations where people are starting buying online, consumer behavior is starting to change. I myself personally, I use Hardware Zone, I was Yahoo Auction, I use those platforms. So I had an opportunity through one of my network. I mean, that's the best part of my past job. Meet with a lot of individuals like yourself, CEOs, MDs, owners of companies, and of course, I got myself inspired and stepped out. Right, and stepped out not knowing nothing about logistics. I wasn't trained in logistics, but I have an insatiable this desire to always learn, to always improve, to always read, to always be better. So yeah, I mean, I think things can be in my space pretty logical, and I have to admit I do work with a lot of smarter people around me. The team around me, they are always smarter than I am, and I think it's all about garnering that support and leading it. And that's why we are today. And I think last year's highlight was our work with Amazon Prime Now. And of course, a couple of other milestones we've achieved through the years. And I think here we are, trying to also continuously grow sustainably. And looking at the next track that we are looking at, which is potentially even fundraising in the next couple of months for our next phase of growth. So yeah, that's Riverwood.
Yeah, great. Exciting times ahead.
Hi, good afternoon. Oh My Home makes housing transactions simpler, faster, and more affordable. And how we started out is knowing that real estate is the largest asset class in the world, and yet people all face the same 3 problems everywhere, not just in Singapore. So the first problem is the lack of transparency, information, lack of access to professionals. Second problem of it being very time-consuming to transact housing, a property. And lastly, it usually comes with very high cost. Now, knowing these 3 problems, we decided to start Oh My Home because having the real estate experience before starting Oh My Home, we know that it could be made simpler. And that's how the whole company philosophy came about. We know that homes should be about warmth, should be about love, and should be happiness when you're looking for one, selling one. But yet it's always full of stress, full of so much burden. And that's when we thought, if we could come in, bring the level of service that we like. You can think about the usual ways like driving a car around a windy road. And what we do as Oh My Home is giving you a bullet train to get to your destination in comfort, in ease. And that's what we do every day. So we've transacted about 2,000 houses in Singapore, namely HDB. And we're expanding to the private market. And we just celebrated our 2nd year anniversary.
Great. Thank you, Rhonda, and thank you, everyone. I think clearly you can tell all the panelists here have, identified a need and went in boldly, whether it's 8 years ago and, just... So on this high note, I think, Wendy shared a good point, right? I think when she started, there wasn't similar online platforms. But we all know today it's actually extremely competitive. A lot of people are in similar areas, whether it's logistics or real estate, prop tech, real estate, pre-loved. So I think my next question would be, in the space that you're in, given that digital or digitization or digital solutions are becoming actually more the norm than when you started, how are you and your company addressing some of these competitive challenges, and how do you think perhaps your industry, your specific industry, might change as we continue to digitize, including areas like cryptocurrency, for example, right, or AI, etc. So feel free to comment on this area. So again, perhaps we just go down again the line. So, or whoever wants to jump in first, with this new area. The amount of competition that you're seeing, and how can you just keep up with the competition?
I'll go. I'm in a very traditional and conservative industry. Real estate is most of our largest asset in our lifetime, and transforming such an industry to digital overnight is not possible. And that's why at Oh My Home it's very important for us to understand how people transact their housing on a traditional basis, and how we can propel that and guide them along as we go online to DIY. So one of our products that we're famous for is the DIY product, where you can list your home for rent for sale in under 3 minutes. Now, as you can imagine, people who know how to use our services are educated, they're tech savvy, they own a smartphone, and they know everything about Wi-Fi logins and all that. Now, we also have a big group of homeowners who don't understand that. So that's why, that's where our customer service comes along. That's where our blogs, our guides. On our app, we have a journey guide for step-by-step instructions on how to sell your property. Now, you think that this is so commonsensical, but before we came out with this, nowhere in Singapore can you find a step-by-step guide to sell your HDB. Interesting enough. So you need to read like 30 blogs or something to put it together. So that's how we combine traditional to digital. And on the digital front, it's so much more powerful because we can transact property so much faster than it has ever been done before. To give you an example, to transact a HDB on market average, it takes about 120 days. At Oh My Home, with our fixed rate agent services, it's about 60 days. On our DIY platform, it goes as fast as 1 day. Not possible without a DIY platform. And it's free. Our DIY is free. Our fixed rate agent is at a fixed rate. And we can do all of this only because of technology. Because without technology, you talk about a manual person going out to meet customers, transport costs, so on and so forth. That's not possible. And that's why we keep pushing towards the digital journey while understanding that consumers need time. And while we go on this digital journey, the beautiful part of it, when you talk about technology, how we advance with machine learning, with AI, we can now help consumers around the clock. So people don't have to wait till like 9 o'clock when your shop is open. You know, they can just go on our app, you know, they can search for information just directly. And that's something that I really love, because there are moms out there, you're only free after maybe 9, 10 p.m. And that's when all the shops are closed. So I just really look forward to that future where we can all get information, good help at quality prices, just as all the three powerful people on the panel with me. So that's my sharing for the digital portion.
Your side, because logistics is a very traditional business as well, highly manual, need a lot of resourcing. So what are you doing to digitize that your business, and how can you keep up?
So my journey in digitalization, it starts off with my again, I think that that interest, in fact, the desire to always better our services. So of which I think, where I started off with one of my first clients, one of the MNCs in Singapore. Myself being a courier myself as my first journey of my business, it forces me to think of how do we evolve in terms of the processes that we do, right from the courier, from the delivery personnel, all the way up to every department of the business. So after 3 years in the business, we dabbled in fact with building our own technology, which we did. So we actually built our own delivery management system. I think the challenge was, because again, back to the question on your core competency, which is, we are in the traditional space, we are in logistics. But of course, in a highly competitive environment, you must constantly be improving your technology, your services. It's a symbiotic relationship. So at the same time, worrying about cost. I'm just sharing from an SME point of view. So again, I think we have to be also agile and nimble in our approach. So our first step was to build. That cost us significantly. And so once we had that settled, we realized it requires constant upgrading. And of course, a lot of cost. So what we did then is we stuck to that, our main core. And anything that goes after for upgrading goes with our tech partner. So we've got a couple of tech partners that we work with. So in fact, the whole ordering management system now comes along with a warehouse management system, together with a transportation management system, and it keeps going on. So that's on the front end, which is for our services to our customers. But on the back end, more importantly, again, I think again, core competency, we are in a service-based business. So again, the engagement of my first customers are my staff, to ensure that they are constantly engaged, they are constantly motivated in a very competitive yet challenging space. I mean, it's still a very laborious and human-intensive business. So I think we've looked into HR solutions. In fact, one of the tech partners that we work with in terms of getting engagement directly, where you can have almost like a 360 on an app for us to actually get feedback from the staff, and we can collate that and gamify it. So things like that. I mean, that's how we constantly improve, not just for customers per se on the external, but also for our staff. Again, because we are predominantly still a very service-based business. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for the sharing. What about Wendy on your side? Yours is all about digital, all about platform.
Yeah, it's all about digital. It's all about data. I think everyone knows that in this region, right now, e-commerce is really in a very hot competition. It's so intensive, so that I think everyone is trying so hard. However, throughout the journey, I think the most important thing for us to stay competitive is how you care about your customer. Customer is still the core, the backbone of your business. How you can grow your business is we have to rely on customers. So how to identify customers' needs and demands is pretty important. Maybe give you some examples. Since 2010, we started to bring China products to Singapore, and gradually we realized that China product is not good enough to fulfill local demands. We noticed that so many people flying to the States, to Taiwan to buy, certain brands and certain foods, snacks. So we started to introduce Taiwan products and USA products to local consumer. And then we realized that Korean cosmetics had become so popular based on Google search trend, based on all those kind of data you can find online. So we started to bring Korean cosmetics to local consumers. So, throughout the journey, you have to really think about your consumer, what is their real needs and demands, and at the current stage, are you really satisfying their demands, their needs? Are you able to bring something else to complement what you are offering now, to make them to shop with you even more often? Yeah, and right now we are marketplace. We have sellers from China, USA, Korea, and Taiwan to list their products on EasyBuy's platform, so that customer, when they go to EasyBuy's website or our app, they can find products from all these countries. And with the suppliers, with the customers, we have all types of consumer behavior data. For example, we know in which season customers are buying what kind of products. For example, right now is the peak season for traveling because of school holiday, because of Christmas holiday. Every year since October, we know that consumers start to looking for winter clothes, those kind of travel essentials. So that is how we tell our seller, okay, this is season. You need to bring in this kind of product to fulfill consumers, so that even though our sellers, most of them are from overseas, because of the data, because of this digitalization, we are able to tell them how you can bring the right product to the consumers overseas. Even though you don't meet them, but you are still able to understand what is their needs and demands. Yeah, maybe another example is everyone feels like logistics is a challenge. However, for EasyBuy, for the past few years, we don't take it as a very challenging thing. It's because when we first started, we noticed that in Singapore, it's impossible for you to deliver everything to customer's doorstep. Because here, manpower is very costly. Vehicle, petrol, all those kind of things, you are definitely not possible to lower down your delivery cost if you are not finding a smarter way to do it. So that was why when we first started, besides of home delivery, we are offering collection, free collection. we have vehicles delivered to certain MRT stations or some neighborhood area or some, shops. We have partnership with some small shops or mini mart around the domestic residential area so that customers can enjoy free collection. At the same time, we are able to fulfill the parcel delivery. Maybe, for example, a normal delivery vehicle, they can only deliver to 40 household, 40 doorstep. However, with this collection network, a driver each night, maybe they can deliver 100 to 200 parcels a night, just within 4 hours. Yeah, so this is how you leverage on the data, you leverage on consumer behavior, and you know their pinpoint, and you evolve your business. Yeah.
Thank you, Wendy. That's very good sharing. How about you on your
Yeah,
business?
no, I definitely agree with Wendy. Data is definitely has a lot of power these days. When we look back to before e-commerce, the most important and the most valuable person in a store, in a retail shop, was the salesperson, because when you enter the store, she asks you a couple of questions like, have you been here before? What are you looking for? Are you looking for something for you or for your spouse? What size are you? But those types of data now can be collected based on your actions on the website. So what are you looking for in terms of like the category? How long are you on the website? What pages are you looking for? How is your buying pattern based on pricing? So for Tinkerlust, we are definitely we're definitely like a operationally heavy business in which we're dealing with luxury items, right? So it's very personalized. However, it's very difficult to translate that to technology because sometimes technology doesn't have that, that touch, that personalized experience. So that was my challenge. How do you treat your customer as good as it would be if she walked into a Louis Vuitton store? So basically it's as Wendy mentioned, it's all about the data. It's all about understanding and presenting what we predict that they would love, what they would need based on their actions before. So it's really interesting because when you do start a company, you can't leverage all of these, like the AI or like all of the, payment gateways. You just have to figure out first who your customer is, and it evolves as you know more and more data.
I think on this note, I like to maybe again we can go down this way. It's you talk about your area is very specific. How do you feel that your business and each of your businesses can stay ahead of the competition? So you have likes of Rebonds that's in the same space. What can you continue to offer besides harnessing data that would make you be ahead? Because so much is about being ahead of the competition, right? So
when we talk about, like not digitalization, it's all about risk taking, I think, and really trial and error. So I think that when Tinkerlust came into the market, there were definitely larger players, like you mentioned, but they were getting to a point where they were just a little bit too big to afford to make those trial and error. So I think that you have to try fast, you have to fail fast, or you have to learn. And that's basically the beauty of being in a startup, yeah.
Okay. So what about Wendy? You have so much competition, right, in the e-commerce platform today. Shafiq talked about Amazon, that wants to come in, and there's Lazada, there's Taobao now, who's in it yourself. I have my own phone has all the apps. I'm a prolific consumer. So how do you stay ahead?
Yeah, definitely. First of all, like what I have mentioned, you need to really care about your customers. So a lot of things that you do for your consumer, maybe you don't tell them straight. However, they feel it in a subtle way. They just keep going to your app and shop from your app. It's all about the product mix and service mix that you can offer to your customers. And I think locally in this region, the reason why we are still, sort of like still have a space to grow is because the rest of the platform, they still focus more on local suppliers. All the sellers, or maybe majority of their sellers, are from local suppliers or local sellers. However, if you look at this region, we are in we are in a region that every country is in small and medium size, and in all these countries we don't have manufacturers. A lot of things are relying on importation, so it means that local supply doesn't really fulfill your needs because there's no manufacturer, there's no way that the local suppliers can get the straight supply from the factory. However, we focus more on cross-border. Majority of our sellers are from overseas, like China, USA. As you all know that a lot of products products in the world are from China, USA, those kind of countries. So we are bringing the source of products direct to consumers, bypass all the importer, exporter, and local distributor, and etc. So in terms of variety, consumer can definitely find more on EasyBuy. And in terms of price, I think we are still competitive. In this region, I think the key thing for us is how we can, try our best to further fulfill consumers' demands, further enhance our customers' shopping experience, their shopping journey. Not to mention, not just about product offerings, but also the international logistic and local delivery, the last mile delivery, to give them a better experience. At the same time, definitely. Because everyone knows that Lazada has Alibaba at the back, and maybe Shopee has Garena and Tencent at the back. So it's not so smart for us to, fight within this region. So that is why this year we have our new fundings secured. The investors are supporting us, and for the past 8 years, they have seen that how we grow ourselves, how we build up the basic infrastructures. So when we are telling them, okay, we want to leverage on whatever we have now to venture into new countries, they feel so exciting. So the next step for us is to, really look into other countries, other opportunities. There are 260 plus countries in the world. Definitely not just few countries in this region. We still have a lot of room to grow as long as we have the infrastructure, as long as we have the seller, the supplies, and the ability to build up the logistic network. Yeah.
Thanks, Wendy. Wendy speaks with so much passion. I really enjoy listening to her. It's a very tough space, right? We all know e-commerce platform, and it's so competitive. Shafiq, what about your area? There are a lot of logistics companies now, but you said you managed to secure Amazon, so congratulations to that. That's really no small feat, but I'm sure they are a very tough customer. So maybe share some of your insights on that.
For us, we are still predominantly a very B2B business. We serve mostly companies versus consumers. So I think for us, I really have to agree strongly with what Wendy and Samira mentioned regarding data. So on our end, the legacy of most of the companies that we serve, they have technologies of what they have in the past. So what we do with our own data is to be able to give them different reports with different findings as a value add. Honestly, it doesn't bring us anything more, but I think it's just a value add that we give to the customer. Again, to show, back to the core competency and back to what we are, which is in the service industry, to show proactiveness, to show our interests, of course, in making sure we grow together with the customer, and to be able to spot pain points for the customer ahead, sometimes because they're big enough, they're too big that they don't realize these small spots. So that's where we angle the positioning we have with the customers that we serve, to be able to differentiate ourselves. Yes, it does not entirely depend on technology or digital per se, but I think again, service interest for our people, the culture that we have to always serve our customers better, and the space within the space that we are at is the differentiator and our USP within the industry, which I feel allowed us to win such contracts. Because I think, again, this is a very, very tight space. There are, as per what's registered on ACRA, I think about 7,300 logistics companies now, right, within this small space. And barriers of entry is zero. So I think, again, I do have to give credit to my past years in the service industry as a trainer to always look out for what our clients might not see. But I think it's all about being a perceiver versus just an observer. And I think being small and nimble allow us to take that risk and back with technology to track that data, and of course back with the reports to come back to the customer and say, this is a proposal. And again, interest, proactiveness will allow you to extend that contract and allow us to stay in business.
Great.
Yeah.
So Rhonda, your company is only about 2 years old, and like you said, when you started, there wasn't even a how-to guide on how to sell your HDB, right? So, but I'm sure there will be people now watching you and maybe potentially coming up with similar platforms. How do you deal with that? And again, staying ahead of the game.
The fortunate part for us is that in the one-stop shop arena where we take care of from search to selling to mortgage, legal, the whole way through, we don't have a direct competitor. But within our verticals, of course, there are different industry players that are doing similar work. For our product and the service that we're doing, which is housing transactions, we know that consumers want very obvious things. Number one is to transact within the time they require. That is actually most important. It's above the price, above the experience. They need to sell within 3 months, for example. We have to keep doing that well. That's why, I often focus on speed. How can Oh My Home continuously transact faster than the entire industry average? Number two, they want to have a good experience. A lot of people don't know that experience, again, is more important than the price. Now, there's a lot of confusion when it comes to housing transactions where people always think that pricing is controlled by the salesperson. It really isn't. Pricing is controlled by market demand, market forces, and that's actually basically it. If you have cooling measures, no matter how good a salesperson you are, it's very difficult to get good prices. So more importantly is, can you transact during the time that your seller needs you to sell the unit or buy the unit? So we focus on these two things, the experience, the speed, and we've been doing that well. That's why our average time is something that I watch very closely. Each average Singapore agent transacts approximately 1.2 units a year. Now, if you talk about an active agent, it's only about 2.7 deals a year. Every single Oh My Home salesperson transacts 80 deals a year. We're 67 times more efficient. Now, 67 times is only 67 times. We're looking at how we can grow to 100, 200 times. Then the other competition or industry players we're talking about is, will other agents, freelancers want to work with us because they might think that we're the enemy? So it really takes a lot of time for us to tell them our story. We've never started Oh My Home to take away the agents or the middlemen as what the media likes to portray us to do. We started Oh My Home to serve consumers. In fact, we hire agents in-house at a fixed salary to give them stability in their lives. And every single agent that comes into my company, I interview them personally and I watch their life transformed. The year before they join Oh My Home, unstable, stressed out, not sure what to do, don't know where to get customers. 1 year after they join us, they're paid at top 10% of all freelancers in Singapore. So it's a very, very different world when we can bring in all this expertise, all this efficiency, and allow our team members to focus on what they love most and take away all the things they don't like to do. That's what all of us bosses and founders do. We take out all the things they don't like to do and let our team members focus on everything they love, everything they're passionate about. And I think that's what constantly keeps us ahead. We don't think so much about competition. We think about how to outdo ourselves. If we're already okay fast today, how can we be faster tomorrow? If we're getting a complaint today, how can we not get a complaint tomorrow? You keep competing with yourself. There's no point focusing your energy on what other people are doing. If you know your customers well, if you know your team well.
No, that's wonderful, and I love what Rhonda just shared. That's that's so true, right? Like, what can we do for ourselves, right? Instead of worrying about other people, and because we sometimes don't know what other people are doing, in a way. So we have about 5 minutes left. Maybe there's room for 1 or 2 questions max. So anybody who, and feel free to address who you want to ask your question to, or maybe the entire panel. Anyone? Yes, great, the gentleman. Yeah, just feel free to stand up, introduce yourself, and ask your question.
I'm Michael Choi. I'd like to ask the panel whether they have new technologies that they will be introducing in their business, and if so, how it would help them to capture more businesses or identify new business streams. Thank you. Did I introduce myself?
Thank you. New technologies. Anyone going into cryptocurrency, will you accept that for a bag? Maybe, you know, never say never. Yeah, never say never. There are people already, I think that will do cuts, right? That you buy coffee with crypto. Anyone? New technologies?
For us, we look at e-contracts. We look at how we can complete the whole housing transaction on our platform. That goes into government policies as well. But we look into, if we don't talk about government policies, we look into e-contracts. How can you compare your loans, do financial calculations? When you ask a question, when you're searching in Tampines, when you're searching at a certain budget, how can my machine learning constantly give you the best search, the best match at any time of the day, faster than any human being? So that's what we keep working towards. And as we expand across different sectors, across the region, we're looking at how can we localize our product such that whatever language, culture you come from, word of mouth, marketing, digital, offline, whatever it is, we want to be able to reach out to you. And that's what we work on every day.
No, that's great. Anyone? Any other questions as well? Maybe one last one, or go ahead. Well, we see you.
Maybe just on the technology. I mean, because we are always looking out for improvements internally. So I think we constantly look into doing. In fact, we just ended our UAT with our current mode of operations for our WMS. I mean, our warehouse management system, and I think. The thing is, again, the technology, it evolves so quickly. As I agree with what Rhonda said, I think we focus on our customers, right, not on our competitors. And I think with that, we mirror ourselves and see how we can improve each time. So it's a simple upgrade to what we used to do. I mean, we are able to track every activity now. We used to have some manual, some by barcoding, some even just gets processed without even any milestone or checkpoint. So that process itself took us at least about a year just to ensure everything is mapped out on the blueprint. And but you know what? I mean, I think that works very well for us. I'm very sure there already are other bigger logistics players out there who already has processes which are way ahead. But I think again, that constant upgrading that you look internally, knowing your own customers and your own market will allow yourself to constantly be better in the business that you're at, right? So, yeah, just on how we look into new technologies and to improve ourselves. Yeah.
Great, thank you. So, one last question.
Hi, I'm Lillian from MatchFit Consults. It's a question for the panel. We've heard a lot today about how e-commerce and technology can drive a business. I'm interested to understand, how do you prepare your people and your internal processes for change?
That's a great question, you know, and I think when you mentioned about the manpower challenge in Singapore, that's well known across industries, not sure about Indonesia as well, but how do you get your own team to be ready to be ahead of the competition? I know, Shafiq, you mentioned a little bit about the HR just now, but anyone else want to share?
SOPs are so important for a startup because there's so many things that you can't control externally that you really need that process to be streamlined. And so I really appreciate SOPs. But how I personally see that the company is not growing fast enough or, agile enough to kind of like respond to our new technologies or our new initiatives is if it breaks. So if we have like a new campaign or a new activation or something innovative, yet there's still like mistakes happening over and over again, then we go back to the SOP and see how it can be improved. And if we still made it perfect and it should be streamlined, then we look actually at the team and see if the team is not growing fast enough to respond to the demands of the company. So it's usually like we look at the SOP, we change the SOP. If there's still problems, we look back at the SOP. If there's still problems, then we look at the team and see if we need to hire someone that has more experience that can help us move to the next level. That's how we do it, yeah.
I think it's luckier for us because we are doing e-commerce. We rely on data a lot. So with data, we can do a lot of things. And because me myself is an engineer, and actually all the co-founders of EasyBuy are engineers. So the bad thing about engineer is we are able to fine-tune the process. We are able to find the best practice to develop the process. We are able to find the best methodology to do things. So I think with the leader is pretty important, or the top mind is pretty important. Because we are engineer by nature, we have this kind of mindset that whenever we want to do things or whenever new stuff come in and we want to do things, we will have the process ready. I don't want to call it SOP because SOP is like, it has a lot of limitation for you to do things. I want my employees to be innovative. So I give them the basic process. This is something that you need to follow. However, throughout the process, you can have your own creatives. You can have, you can have new tests and trial. You can have, I'm okay that you make mistake because everyone learns from mistake. The most important thing is, do you have the process ready to allow any mistake to happen? So it's like whenever you want to do things, definitely the manager or the leaders will think about, okay, what if it goes wrong? Do I have a backup plan? So when you have all these things ready, just go ahead. I think to give more room for employees to try their ideas is pretty important. However, at the back of whatever you are doing, you always tell them, whatever you do, you think about your ROI, return on investment. Okay, you are doing this kind of thing. You tell me what is the return that you are able to get. If you think this is justified, just go ahead to do it. I'm totally fine. I think I encourage my staff a lot for them to start to try different kind of thing. That is why I think in Singapore, I believe EasyBuy is the company with the most efficiency in terms of digital marketing. Yeah, my ROI on marketing spend is pretty high. Yeah.
I think what they both brought out is both companies are at different stages, right? So I totally agree with Samira, is that when you're at a startup stage, sometimes SOP is actually very important because you're really addressing so many changes. But as they scale to a level of EasyBuy, is then how do you encourage your employees to continue to think out the box, right? Because sometimes when you become a very big company, a big platform, then you become too comfortable, and then you can't keep up with the competition. So I think we may have run out of time. I don't know if someone's glaring at me from behind. So we have coffee break now, right, Renee, as well? So thank you so much to the wonderful panelists who've been so open to share about their business, about their challenges, about the opportunity. So of course, I encourage everyone for the consumer-facing one, to download their apps, right? And of course, for the B2B one, to refer business. So thank you again. Yeah.